Make clean gestures. See that your puppet looks at the audience. If I looked up at the ceiling while I'm talking to you, you'd look up at the ceiling too. The eye contact of puppets is vital. If there are other puppets on the stage, be sure the puppets look at each other. Sometimes beginners put the eyes very high in the head of a puppet, and the puppet is looking up automatically. In that case, you have to hold the head so it really looks down in order for the puppet to look straight ahead. So be careful where you put your eyes. Make deliberate gestures. It's better to make fewer gestures than too many, because the gestures should mean something. Each gesture should have a definite meaning. Always keep your foot bar in your hand. You will need at times to do what I just did then. As he turned around, his feet sort of slid together and they needed to be pulled apart just a little. Now, to operate the hands, use these fingers. And make him sit down. Do you know how you sit down? What kind of gestures you make, what kind of movement you make when you sit down? Study how people move. He looks at where he's going to sit. I pick up his hands slightly so they're not dead. Tighten the knee strings. Leaning forward. And he sits. He wants to stand up. He leans forward slightly and rises. We must at all times, while we're standing, keep our body balance over our feet. Otherwise, we tip over. Now to walk. This is where you want to relax. Hold your bar here, this way. Lift one end and drop it. If you're a beginner, just learning how to walk, lift one end and drop it. Lift the other end and drop it. None of this. That gets you nowhere. It's the lifting and dropping. As you walk the puppet, you make it progress. I heard David Zyrodiak explain this as the puppet leans forward, and if he didn't get his foot out, then he'd fall over. As we walk, we lift up and down very slightly. So with each step, you raise your main bar very slightly. Don't mince when your puppet is turning around. Sweep him around by pulling one leg to where you want it. So lift and drop. Any questions about this? Puppets seldom make a long walk, though in a movie one time we had to make a walk all the way across the room. That was really something. But ordinarily in a show, a puppet will take a few steps at a time. in Snow White, the queen raced around the stage. She had a long skirt which covered her feet, but you could see her leg action as you can through a skirt. So we sniped her. She took what were really enormous steps for her, but it covered the ground, it gave the impression, and it did what we wanted it to do. A puppet is a puppet, it is not a person. And you can do things with a puppet that make it seem more like a person than if you actually closely imitated what a person would do. That's why we use puppets. Are there any questions? Always pick up your puppet by the controller. I may be going over things that you know about already, but maybe somebody doesn't. I once sent a suitcase full of puppets for an exhibit, and someone who didn't know about marionettes unpacked the trunk. Picking up the bodies, letting the controllers fall. And when the puppets, when a person was through looking at the puppets, and just put them in a pile. It took hours to untangle them. Always pick up your puppet by the controller. Pick it up by the body too, if you wish. But never let the controller dangle. When you're through using your puppet, hang it up. Have a loop in the bottom, in the controller. That's what we do. Or gather up all the strings. One way to be sure you have all of them is give it a turn so you know you've got them all. Wind the strings around the controller. Puppet should be bagged before you wind it up. Then you can pack it in a trunk or put it away in a drawer. This head, by the way, is styrofoam covered with paper mache. This was the way we had the students make the heads. The heads on our puppets that we used in our shows were made of plastic wood. They're more durable than this. But this is a perfectly good way to do it.
If you have a marionette with a jaw that a mouth that opens, where does strings? Maybe that's a complicated question to ask us. How would you string that? I mean, where do the strings attach to the control board?
This has a movable jaw. Well, with that controller, I have a paper clip that holds the foot bar in place. This one has a peg. I don't like the pegs as well as the paper clip because it is not absolutely certain. Now, where is your mouth? His mouth doesn't open very much. I guess his jaw's a little stiff. The string is attached right under here. See, I'm holding the controller this way, and I can get a finger around that string. If I'm using this puppet in a show, I would know where the string is. There it is.
In other words, the string is behind.
Comes right through the top of his head.
Yeah,
There's a pin through his jaw, and there's a spring in there that keeps his mouth shut. And you pull against the string, the spring.
You have that strung with brown. Is it brown fish line?
This is the monofilament.
Oh, that's
It's a gray, dull monofilament. And if you're going to use monofilament, that's better, much better than the shiny.
But you recommend the black.
I like it better. But sometimes you may find for your purposes the monofilament does what you want it to do much better. Depending on your lighting and your scenery, the monofilament may disappear more. So We try to keep the strings from protruding, but puppets, marionettes are, after all, worked on strings.
When you make the head, do you make the jaw separately or?
No, make it all in one. And model it so you have some wrinkles or some means of concealing the joint a little bit, as far as you can. Look at the puppets in the exhibit in reference to mouth joints and see how they are worked into the general design. No, we cast it all together and then cut the joint out, cut the jaw out, and build the back part of it out of more plastic wood. There may be a wire frame in there, even with loops on it for the pin to go through. Now, shall we work some of your puppets? Would you two people like to get your puppets? I think you can walk them up and down there. If you want to stand on the platform and work it on the carpeting, if that's more comfortable. Now, please turn so everyone can see. We're all learning from this experience. He may be suffering from stiff pants.
You've got a problem of some sort, that's for sure.
It's nice and small.
That's fine.
The clothing that goes over the joints of your puppets can restrict the joints so you might not even know you had a joint there.
Sure.
Sure, very well. I just thought.
May I feel of him? Well, his head is tipping back.
Tipping back, okay.
His leg strings are shorter than his other strings. If you're going to hang those, his knees will have to be bent. I would lengthen the leg strings. And I would attach, he has screw eyes.
You can see how we cut it frames. They were so cute.
Put him where the balance is toward the front. He has
If they were moved up above the ears,
well, you're
if
working
it
with
moves
screw
back
eyes,
up-
which are going to work loose.
yeah.
So put him back here in his hair somewhere. You'll have to experiment to find out exactly where is the place that's not too far back, but it's far enough back that it balances his head forward.
What's a good way to attach the strings? He's got screw eyes there. Is that a good way?
I hate screw eyes.
Yeah.
They work loose.
What do you use?
With a coping saw, a very fine blade.
What about on his head?
Cut a slit in the end of the controller, and then cut two little side slits. You can pull the first string up through the center slit, and then wind it around through the side slits.
What about on his head?
Oh, I thought you meant on the head.
On the head.
How would you attach the strings?
Oh, yeah. Don't you practice?
She can put screw eyes in there, but I would get a long shank screw eye. Or this feels like a solid plaster head. If it were not a solid plaster head, you could put a dowel stick right through if you have found the right place with screw eyes in the ends of the dowel stick. But rather than screw eyes, I would make a wire loop, bore a hole from the end of the dowel stick out one side, make a twisted wire loop and put the twist in through the dowel stick and bend it in such a way that it won't come out, and then it will never come out like screw eyes do.
When my fellow walks, I lose, see how his foot is? What am I doing wrong?
May I handle him?
Sure.
Rose, back up a little so we can see.
I need Boston case for you, so it's me.
The ankle joint.
His ankle.
Pardon?
The ankle joint.
His feet are loose.
Ankle joint's too way out.
His pants are too heavy.
Wash his jeans.
You need a puppet. This puppet is about the third, that's the size of a person. So you need material that's a third as heavy. I don't know if that is a good law of physics, but that's the way it works. His knee joint goes in all directions. So his foot is heavy, that's good. You need heavy feet, they work better. But you have no control of where his feet are going to point. If you can do something, you could take a dowel, give him replace his knee joint. You can take a dowel, you can make a dowel knee joint like that. Put your joint in the front. It's controlled. The front view of that would be, here's the cuts of your joint. I would bore holes like that. Bore holes and use heavy woven fish line or very light trick cord. It's a woven cord. Run it through these holes and that hole and fasten them off by putting some Elmer's glue in there and sticking a round toothpick into it as far as you can get it and break it off. Jim Gamble recommended that kind of joint this morning. We use it a lot. So your hole would be like that. Which prevents the knee from twisting and also allows it to bend the way it should and prevents it from going the way it should
And
not.
use heavy fish line or what else?
The very, very heavy fish line. You're going to catch a marlin or something. Or thin trick line. Is that what it, Jim, does it have?
Just nylon cord. Thin nylon cord, about 1/16 of an inch.
Margo, you didn't say.
Oh, excuse me.
My husband makes flyers, my brother makes mine out of plastic, and they're all solid wood. How would you put the screw eyes in there? How often do it?
Basswood is a very soft wood. It's very nice for carving. I would bore a hole all the way through it and put a wire in there with a loop on each end. If you use long shank screw eyes, I would put a little bit of plastic wood around the outside. Yeah. Well, either a wire all the way through with a loop in each end, or long shank screw eyes with a little plastic wood on the outside to keep it from twisting.
Okay, so if you put that long finger, that's not full of twist.
It wouldn't need to. But for the way this is built right now, see, you can't control where his feet are going because his knee joint is so loose. head doesn't work very well. What's with his? He has a screw eye in the bottom of his neck and a loop in the top of his shoulder piece. A cloth loop. I'd move his shoulder strings back here. They're in the same place his head is. His head doesn't want to turn to the right very much. You could loosen his head and tighten his shoulder strings. Well, it will work this way, but I'd like it a lot better if it were back an inch and a half or so. He has a continuous string there and the back string. You might. His overalls are stiff, which impedes his knee joint somewhat. But since his knee joints are so loose, he can walk with his feet going backwards.
Yeah. Gee, I had a trick puppet and I didn't even know.
Let me see what his hip joints are. His hip joints are just the same as the knee joints, but that's not so bad. You may be able to get him to walk if you just correct his knee joint. If that doesn't work, then correct his hip joint too. It has a very nice face. But I would look for material that's the same color as the overalls you want, and make them out of much lighter material. This is knit. Knitted material is.
I didn't make him, I bought him.
Well, I washed it.
I think that's the easiest way out when you look at the sewing on it.
To hang it. And also, he'd profit by shoulder strings. No, would you hold that, please?
I mean, you're really getting
You could put screw eyes in his shoulders, or you could drill a hole through it and put a wire loop in there. But, oh, he has screw eyes. He has screw eyes. At the front of his shoulders, they should be at the back of his shoulders. If you're going to use screw eyes, use long shanks that will stay there. How do you make your screw eyes stay in?
Put the screw eye in a dowel, embed the dowel in the plastic wood. Never put screw eyes in plastic wood.
Well, this is a wooden piece here.
Well, if it's light like balsa or basswood or even pine, it'll eventually work its way out. So always drill like a 1/4 inch hole, put a 1/4 inch hardwood dowel, and put the eye screw into the dowel, not the wood.
Well, I don't like screw eyes in the end of a dowel either.
Well, if you use a hardwood dowel, it won't come out. Use softwood dowel, it will.
And get a long shank screw eye.
Yeah, longer.
All right, thank you. The next two people, please. Didn't bring my home. Would you like to work one of these puppets to get the feel of it? And would you like to? Now, I take the main controller in my left hand. There is no rule that says you have to have it in your left hand. Now, remember what I said. Keep the leg bar down and the main controller up. Hang loose. You must be relaxed. You can't work a puppet if you're tense. Now, first, just experiment, see what you can do with that controller. Relax. That's it. See what you can do. Don't use your leg bar at all.
Oh, okay.
See what you can do. How you tilt his head, how you make him bow, how you make him turn his head.
See the lines.
Press against that. Tilt the controller. Now pick up his hand strings with his fingers. Now make the main controller go up and down slightly. I think you would be better on the carpet. Puppet feet on a slick board like this slide around a little. Though if you had a thin layer of foam on his feet or even a layer of rubber cement on his feet, it would keep him from sliding around. Now if you want him to turn, tighten this string and swing it around. That's it. Let his feet get dry.
So you bump this up and down a little bit to make it go?
Just a little.
Just a little.
There, you get a rhythm that fits each puppet. That's it. That's fine. Very good. You're holding his leg strings tight.
She said when you sit him back,
Lean forward a little when you sit down. Yes. You can't sit down without. You have to keep your balance over your feet until your weight is off your feet. If we didn't, we would really fall over. Right. Would you two people like to work your puppets? You can take those over there, or if you want to play with them some, take them over out of the way and let you run. This is a different kind of controller. I'm not experienced with it, but many people use this kind. Albert Grosser, who is one of the most able puppeteers in the world, uses a controller that looks more fantastic than this, and he does beautiful things with it. Did you ever work his controller?
We've got one in the audience over there.
We'll see that in a little bit. But this, let's see. His shoulders are here. His head is here. That's his legs. And that's worked this way. Seems to be well made, so he tracks right. This is his hands. Albert has his hands separate too, but he has more complicated than that. I think you could learn to work this. I mean, he seems well made, well balanced, and well strung. So come and try.
This is heavy. He's trying to be a bigger man than I am.
Let's see. Now get your finger and thumb up on there. That's what works his legs.
And what fingers are these for the other strings here? Yeah. How do I?
Experiment. No. Keep a grasp on the coal here. And be able to.
But you understand that the shoulders have to be back from the head. Otherwise, you got to pull the string. String pulling is a misnomer. You operate the control. You don't pull the string. So you want very little movement. You get a lot of movement down below. So that's why it looks to me like most of these controls are too small for the marionette. Because you have a
Jim,
big
how
one.
do his ears work since you said it's
What's that?
a bigger thing?
So the shoulders are back to the back, so all you have to do is tip the control, you see, to make the head work.
You work alone mostly.
Yes, that's right.
If you're working with other people, you keep your controllers
Compact.
as compact as possible, so you can still get the action you want. But when you're working with another person doing a play where they're talking to each other, you sometimes have to get the controllers quite close together. And
So
Rufus used to work this way.
He's way close to you.
Jim, what's on the hands?
The reason for the strings through the hands is so that the strings up at the knee don't get caught up in the
No,
fingers.
I actually wanted to know what's on the hands.
Oh, that's fabric painted.
Oh, it's
Painted fabric.
I wonder.
Very
But
simple.
I noticed that he leans back when he walks. We couldn't really get him balanced forward.
This is not really an excellent example of a well-strung marionette. This was one of a whole bunch of them. They're all a little bit different. He leans back.
You could make him lean forward.
I can lean forward, yeah. The problem is on this one, his feet, he does not have an ankle joint.
He doesn't need it.
No, he doesn't, but because because his toes are flat, they tend to drag a little bit. So it's more fun if he kind of walks around like this. But for 9 and 10-year-old children working this, it's just fun.
Thank you.
Sure.
Play with it a while. All right. Have you got so you can do it?
I don't know if I can make him walk very well.
To make him walk, you have to get your fingers on this bar.
But his legs don't look real to me.
Well, catch the skirt on.
Yeah.
The skirt is too tiny. Are the strings, you have to be careful where the strings go through your garment too. I think that's all right.
I think the skirt is too tight. It looks to me. It looks like it needs to flow more. Be a fuller
Well,
cut.
if it were made of a knitted nylon, like a nightie, it would flow.
Too long, too.
Too long.
Yes.
Hemming it would.
I think you've got a puppet that will work there. It's well made. You just need to, well, you can put on a garment that is more drapey and practice.
Okay, I've been trying to look it up too high.
Controllers. Now, who's next? All right.
This is the brush control. We're talking about. Have you ever experimented with it?
I have held his controller, and he has said it's perfectly simple, it works itself. But please show us.
Well, it's kind of a combination of the upright. With arms are on levers, which you can position acting pose.
Could you speak up so everybody can hear this?
Okay.
This is very interesting. This Albert works this like magic.
Basic control is kind of a combination of vertical, more than anything else, more than an airplane, but it has some of the technique that you would find in the airplane control as well. This is a rocker bar for the feet, which can be operated with one finger, thumb, or both fingers. The shoulder strings are connected to a separate lever that remains horizontal in any position. And the bow string or tail string is just behind that.
You handle that with your hand.
It can come back with a finger.
Is it attached on the same level as the shoulders?
It's
Show
The
stuff
screw out,
above.
it's an inch or so above.
So you can get your finger into it.
Can you get
And the arms, no?
The arms are on separate airplane controls that are on, it's actually 3 strings control each arm and hand movement. 2 strings to the hand, 1 to the upper arm, or any other position that you'd like.
One to the lower arm.
Right.
This allows the hand to action like that, which is very nice.
Which is Roser's piano playing. That's where that comes from.
Then he has one finger that
The
goes.
finger, right. These are also levers that you can position once you get to a place that you like, that you want to hold an arm in that position. You can use the lever to either lower or raise.
This gets the arms out of that central feeling.
Or they can be brought just the string.
They're not held together, are they?
No.
How does Albert make both hands work at the piano?
I'm sure that he would. That's a good question.
Not that Albert.
You wouldn't care to answer?
Does he have a bar across there?
That's a completely different control, I think, for the piano player. But it is,
You can
it
do
is,
this.
right. I'm sure that he probably is style.
I think you can get Albert's design at the store.
It's possible.
I would inquire anyway. Albert says this is absolutely great. It works itself. All you have to do is hold it. I thought he was a little euphoric when he said that.
I like that hand.
But this has certain things to recommend. That certainly there is no better puppeteer in the country than Albert Roser.
Once you learn where the strings go, they are very simple to operate. It's just all those strings that look confusing.
All of the joints on this puppet, though, came from Rufus Rose's, Margo Rose's design. So that's the place to start for the basic joints. They're string joints.
Incidentally, you can get our designs in the store.
It's the best $1.50 you'll ever spend. Advertising. Close.
Now that you mean
But
the
notice,
control?
well, notice the stringing on the leg.
No, the stringing,
For
the
example.
jointing.
That's right in the same style. This was kind of an experiment because I was wanting to try to see if I could keep one hunched over with bent legs that remained bent in that design. So there are some elements borrowed from Mark Stevens' design about that.
You can borrow some ideas from Bill Baird too. He makes a lot of his puppets in an actively
Yeah,
crouching
I've noticed
position.
that. You're right.
So the bodies never look dead, just hanging.
I've noticed on this particular puppet, it's only been strung about a month, that the head movement seems to be a little bit limited, and I think it's because I was trying to position the head further forward in the body, which I've seen done. The head
Head is
is
there.
right here. This may not be the perfect control.
How do you move his head?
Well, supposedly, when you go forward, you're pulling tight on the shoulder, and you have the head movement, which again, I think is not
Well, the head is,
supposed to be.
that's on a fixed bar, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is.
The only way to change it is to tilt the whole controller.
That's right.
And his shoulders being on the set spread here, his shoulders